Alright, so my plan for today is to add the status endpoint in our example game server. And I was also just playing around a bit with, if you remember in the cool compiler that we did a while back, we had this multiplayer game which we can use already. The only issue, so we had this coin game, the which has a server and a client. The only issue with it is that it's running just the game, so it doesn't have the slash status endpoint as I would like to have, but that's not an issue because we can add it. But then the issue is that in my cool language I don't have easy access to HTTP, like setting up HTTP, so we have to add that if I want to do this, which could be pretty difficult because if you remember from like any part of the compiler, so for example, let's say the network net, right, we had to add all of these like listen, but I guess these were easy because we have syscalls, so probably that's in Prelude, right? And we have some Linux syscalls for networking, and then we implemented it in assembly. But assembly just means calling the syscalls, so that was, yeah, kind of that. But that would mean to implement HTTP in this language, which would be kind of difficult, I would say. And the other issue is, since I'm using NixOS, I have no idea why, but Raylib doesn't want to run on Nix, so that's strange. I would have to figure out how to fix that, but I'd say would be pretty cool because we already have a game, like a multiplayer game, so we don't have to implement it from scratch. And I mean, it would be a decent example, right? So would be like, oh, we already have a multiplayer game, let's implement the matchmaking for it, right? So that will be a real use case. But for now, we can just go ahead and work with our example and figure out what features do we really need. So this slash status, I would say, is kind of important. Do we need a shell? I think so. I don't remember. Yeah. So if we open up our examples, we have this echo game server, right? And the goal, so I can also show an example of how this thing works. So let's start this up. We need to docker compose. I would first say down volume so we can see the entire process. So we start up our database. I just made a docker compose for the database so that we don't have to remember the commands, so it's easier. Then we need to run the game server, so go run matchmaker, or I guess the master server. Actually we need we need to run the migrations. Just initialize the database, right, the tables. So let's migrate, and now we can run the matchmaker, right? So that's that. And then with the curl command -x post, we can create a room, and this room is gonna run, it's gonna have a query port, which is gonna be the slash status HTTP queries, and then the game port, which is what we can use with netcat. And now we have an echo server, right? And we can connect again to it, right? But it doesn't communicate with all clients, so that's something else we need to do. But yeah, so we can close up everything. So what I want this echo server to have is this extra slash status endpoint. So if we go to main, we already have some stuff set up with Gene, so we can just take the router and you know, kind of copy paste this stuff, right? So, but now the other thing is, right, our main function of the game server already runs this listen, and then it's gonna go here in this while true loop, and it's always gonna block on accept. So we cannot really run anything else, right? We need a separate thread to run the HTTP stuff. So let's actually build that. Let's call it main HTTP, right? We can paste this stuff in just for now, and then I guess right at the beginning, maybe it makes sense to say go main HTTP. So we just defer, or I guess, you know, make this as a go routine. So we run it on a separate thread, and we don't really have to wait for it because it's always gonna run. And obviously, probably it needs the config. So let's pass the CFG. And that's because we want to run this on something like this. We want to run it on query port. And you know, by default, the query port and game server are gonna be 8080 and 6969, right? But we are going to change those when we export the ports in Docker, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so can actually have Gene, that's fine, right? And now we need a handler for the status. All right. Well, you know, I think you can actually, but I'm not sure if you can have something like go func. Oh. Fuck. Because how do you... I don't know, I think you can do something like this, but that's kind of weird, so let's just keep it with our main HTTP. Anyway, yeah, so we need a handler, obviously. So let's go... Wait, what? Oh, handler is here. So yeah, we can have a handler, something like this. Kind of makes sense. I don't think we'll need any dependencies right now. Like probably we'll need some list of all the players. So, you know, if we call some slash status, it means that we have something to, you know, status for, or I don't know. Okay, anyway, let's do this kind of stuff. So yeah, we have a handler, and we need status, right? And similar to all of these, we can just have a status command here, and let's say that for now it's gonna say just okay. So let's import that. So for now the status endpoint for our game server is gonna just say okay, nothing special. So if we go ahead and let's down that. Huh. Oh, and yeah, I can just use air for this thing, but oh, hmm. Let me just change this. I was calling it master server, but I can say matchmaker. I decided on the matchmaker name, maybe. So go run ban init, and then we can just have air. Okay. So if we curl, create a new thingy, if we then curl a get request, this port and status, we should get, I thought we should get an okay, but we didn't, and that's because if we check, oh, and I also have to kill all of these I'm not gonna say anything about that. Docker kill, and the other one is this. So yeah, we kind of have to kill them manually right now. I'm probably gonna, and this was also the third one, hmm, probably gonna have something like a health check, and if it's not healthy, you know, the matchmaker will actually kill the game servers. Yeah, so let's go to matchmaker, and here you can see that we only export the 6969 port. So let's also export the query port on 8080. Okay, so this thing should restart, I hope. Let's create a new room. Yeah, so actually we kind of want to do this thing first. I really hate how I'm gonna do it, but like I want to have a unique code, right? But how can we have a unique code? That's the issue. Like, sure, having 6, let's say I'm gonna use only lowercase letters, right? So what are the chances of creating the same code twice? Is it, like, I'm not good with probabilities, but I would say it's 1/26 times, like, to the power of 6, right? I think that's the probability of having the same code twice, so pretty small. Let's have game server. Let's do like code. No, that's stupid. We could have like an interface just to have multiple implementations, but that's what what do you call it, like a software developer for companies would do that. Anyway, let's have a function then. So simple function generate code. Now it would be cool to also have some way of validating the code and all of that, but that's simple. So right now we are just doing A, B, C, D, E, F. That's what we do. So generate code. Obviously, like, using an interface is the right way to do unit tests and shit like that, but I wouldn't say that it's important. Right, let's delete the comments, I don't need them. Okay, so generate code. I need to figure out golang random letter. Maybe we actually get it. Oh, that's just my poll solution. I mean, why not, right? We create a list of bytes. Because I'm, Haskell, I like to add an S when it's bytes. It's like B byte, S is the plural. So like X's or Y's. Okay, and then, that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't really care about, benchmarks, but okay, let's use this stuff. So we'll have a constant letters is like an array of characters, right? So that's what I said about Go. It feels weird that a list of characters is not a string, but I don't know. So instead we use rooms, which is characters, and then we just do something like this. So we iterate, I guess, BS, right? And we choose a random letter. I mean, it's kind of scuffed, but should do the job. And if you really want to have like a 6-digit code, and that's because here we use 6, right? So that's the thingy for the code. But anyway, so now if we create a room, it should actually create it because yeah, and it also gives us the code. So your friend would do something like, because now if we, let's say we list all the rooms, it's running on 80 rooms. There are no public rooms, but if we check for this one, we actually get it. That's really nice. Okay, anyway, let's check the API v1 status of that room. Okay, what? Reset by fucking peer. That's weird. Docker PS. I thought that. Wait, it's not exported correctly. Oh yeah, it is. I'm just blind. Oh what? Oh no, yeah, I'm just blind. It is. I was like, what the fuck? Huh. Huh. That's weird. Let's run. Let's stop this one and actually go run examples echo go. The fuck? It's okay. But why when I run Oh. Hmm. That's interesting. Anyway, let's kill those. Why would it be? Why would that happen? Then, I mean, locally you saw that it was fine. So if we run status, it says okay. But why, if it was in Docker? So it's gonna do something like Docker run. Let's actually run our Docker image, right? But let's run it in interactive mode so we can see the output. And let's use like this port and this port, right? So we run it. Okay. And now if we try to get, it's not gonna say anything. That's weird. What if we run it on 880? Maybe it's like something with curl. It's stupid. No, it just doesn't. Go through. You know what? Did I forget to Docker build? I think I think yeah, I forgot to Docker build it. Docker build. So yeah, this sucks. Each time I oh, Docker build. Each time I make a change in the game server, I need to Docker build it. So probably for testing purposes, like making sure that the game server works, we'll have to run it manually. But then when we want to test that the matchmaker works, we do a Docker build and yeah, run it like that. So I guess yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. So if we run now air, let's make sure that we don't have anything. Let's create a new room, right? Query port is gonna be this. And we get the status of okay. So all right. And also the other one was like checking the rooms. There are no rooms, public, and this is the ID for the private room that our friend created, and it has 0 players. We have the IP address and the game port, so we should be able to netcat 0000, or imagine that we have a game client and we netcat into it and then hello. And now what I want to add is that if you make this get request, you would see here 1 player. That's the idea. So yeah, let's check docker ps, docker kill, and let's kill this thingy. Okay, so wait, what? I killed the database anyway, and I think that's strange. Okay, so matchmaker kind of works like it's everything done for the moment. We just need to add a kill command alongside with spawn, but that's gonna happen only after we are able to implement the other stuff. So let's go to our examples. let's have a structure that's gonna represent all the players and stuff like that. Huh. I mean, I'd also like to put a hard-coded limit of how many accepts we can have, or like how many connections, concurrent connections, let's say. So golang listen limit. How can we limit the number of connections? Netutil. Is it in the library? No. But you know, that's cool. You can serve it with HTTP. Yeah, so I guess we have to implement our own client. I don't really want to use this one because that's kind of what we need to implement to get the number of players. So let's actually implement that, something like this, like limit listener, but it's gonna be called like game server or something. So let's do here type game server struct, and this struct is gonna have players. It's gonna be an integer, and I guess for now that's it. Maybe I also need a maximum players, max players. Even though we have max players in the config, I'd say it's also needed here. Right. So function new game server is gonna take max players int, and it's gonna return a game server. Game server players is 0, obviously. Max players is max players. Okay, so I wanted to say return. Right, that's how we create a game server. But I think it also needs to get a listener. Okay, so a game server also needs like a listen method. So let's put a listener on this thing. I think listener is gonna be private. So net.listener. I think that's how you do private fields in Go. You put a lowercase. Anyway, it should have this listen function. Let me just see. Not really listen, there just creates the listener. So probably accept and close. Right. I guess new listener is gonna have all of this. Yeah, it's gonna create. Okay, yeah. I know. So new game server is also gonna take in the address, the port. So address string port int, right? And it's gonna create this listener. So if we go down here, let's have this listener created. Perfect. Now I guess we can have error. Let's just put error address and port. Fuck. Okay, and listener. Do I need to say G? Yeah. Yeah, I need to say that. Okay, so this is like, okay, we know that it's gonna be TCP and this is the format. So we create a listener and then we just put everything into the game server. And if we have an error, we return that error. Perfect. So now we can say here, instead of this thing, let's just copy it. It's gonna be new game server cfg.server host cfg.server game port and cfg.server max players. Wait, what the fuck? This should be an integer. Okay, so that's how we create our new error creating game server. That's how we create our thingy. And now we need this close and accept. Do we have like an interface? Like listener. Yeah, it's an interface. So we can actually say, that's pretty cool. We can actually say here, I wanted to say listener, but I'm not sure. Because we can say that we return a listener, but I also want to have broadcast on my game server. So that's one thing. Right, so if I say here that we return a listener, then we kind of screw up our type. Yeah, whatever. Let's just say that we have function accept. Right, that's how it looks like here, and it returns net connection and error. Oh my god. So what it needs to do is just, oh, and it's this game server. It does this dot accept, and that's that. Should be good, should be Gucci. Then we also need close, so let's implement close. Close, what does it do? Close, it can return an error. Oh my fucking, it can return an error. Right, and that should be everything, right? So we create our game server like listener, we defer close it, and here we accept connections. So it does exactly what it was doing before. but as I said, I want accept to be a bit different. So if we take a look at this guy's implementation, maybe. He's got the net listener. Wow, you can actually do this stuff? The fuck? Yo, that's pretty... That's pretty interesting though. What the fuck, how does this work? You put like just a type with no field. Is it like expanding this thing? Mm, I no idea, but who cares? Anyway, so still has this accept. Oh, this is like acquire. But how do we? Okay, okay. Oh, yo, what? Bro, I have no idea what it's happening here. So here it creates a channel, and for each like for the count, it sends a true, right? And here when you accept, oh shit, that's insane. It reads from that thingy. Right? And here it sends true on that. Okay. That's kind of cool. I mean, it makes sense because you want to have something. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Right? So, like a small explanation of what this does is this channel is, I think, like a thread safe queue. So here we enqueue count items. So let's say that we have a maximum players of 4 players. So it adds 4 objects in our thread safe queue. It can be anything. Here he just used true. And when you accept a new connection, you read from that queue, and this read is blocking. So if you have nothing in the queue or in the channel, let's call it channel, then it blocks, right? So you cannot accept more connections if you try this, right? Like it's not gonna go to the next stuff. It's gonna stay blocked on this thingy. And once this is the connection, once the connection closes, so if we look at our handler connection, when we close the connection, so here we need to have a different type. When we close the connection, we send in that channel the another object, right, to signal that there is a new space left. So this thing unblocks. That's a cool approach, I would say. And I'd say that it's also probably like unique to Go, like a Go kind of thinking. I'm just thinking, um, is there anything useful we can have in this channel? I don't think so. I don't think we have anything useful in that channel that we can put, right? Because we created here, right? Okay. I mean, I like this one more because it has also errors. Okay, let's try that actually. So game server, it needs this thingy. But I also want it. I would also want to have how many we have. Hmm. Well, I guess limit listener should be way to go, but that this was a really interesting thing to see. But yeah, probably like this is a better way, better approach. But I mean, if you think about it, yeah, shouldn't matter. So then let's try this one, right? So let's use netutil. Then it is what it is. Netutil limit listener, right? And I guess this stuff. Oh, it takes in a listener. Okay. So we do listen. Netutil and max players. So this just limits the listener, right? Okay. And here we have number of players. All right. This thing returns connections, and as I said, we maybe want to have our own type for connections because we want a custom event to decrease this number of players. Or maybe here we want a list of game clients. So we'd have an additional game client. Right now I have no idea what it does. Let's put it here, or what it needs, but I know that players is gonna be game client list, or how do you say that, right? and this can be empty, or how do you make an empty list? Like this? A list with max players count, right? That's what I want. I mean, ideally it would be a linked list, but, or I guess like a real list. Golang hash set. That's what I mean. Uh, or maybe list. Not really. But yeah, like a set would be kind of useful, because here maybe actually we want pointers so that we can put them as null if they are not in the list, let's say. This sucks. Golang sucks. The hash map thing maybe makes sense. Let's see. So if I have map, can I have map game client bool? I can. Maybe actually that's what I want to do. Right, having a map. It's just like this guy said, because it's like a set. Anyway, let's imagine that we have a thingy. Okay, so yeah, we'll have like game clients, right? And I would say that this thing should probably return a game client, the accept. So we might need a connection here, right? So accept might need a connection. So this thing, yeah, let's say it returns game client. Connection and error. Oh, actually I figured error is not nil. Then we return. Right. So this is gonna be similar. client error. If error is not nil, then we just return. And then we need to create a game client. And now here it makes sense to return nil. Game client connection is connection and the error is not there. Right. Right. The other thing we might have to do is to add this thing in there. So let's say g is equal to, maybe this thing should be like a c, actually, if I think about it. Right, so we might need to add it here in this map. So something like this dot players, we add it in the map. Right, and I think game client also needs access to game server. Probably. So for example, if the game server closes, we need to close all the clients. That's one thing we need to do, right? So for C, is it like this? Range. This is the game client. So C dot close. We should call close on each client, right? But we don't have close on the client, so that's that. Right here it should complain that, oh, con is actually a game client. So let's call this one actually server and this should be client and the connection with the client. So this should be here game client. Perfect. So yeah, now it's gonna complain that, well, this stuff is fine, right? It creates a new game server. The game server, when it accepts a connection, it creates a game client, and this is more like a connection with the game client, so it's, you know, not really a client, it's the connection with the game client. Okay, so yeah, we don't have close. What should close do on this thing? So function this game client close, it should just connection dot close, well, this dot connection. It can return an error, so let's have it doing that. But the other thing that we need to take into account is that if we close a connection with a client, we also want to remove it from this set, let's say, of players, right? So it means that I need a game server. I need, and then here we got fucked. Invalid key type. I guess we should have it as a pointer. Okay, and server is gonna be this address to this, I think. So for example, close this.server.players, and we can delete this from the players. We remove ourselves from the list of players, and then we close the connection. I think that's how we are supposed to do it. So now close should be fine, and we just need to implement read and write. So let's go ahead and have function this game client. Read should be just connection, or this dot connection dot read. So this is the actual type. Read B and write. Function this game client is just gonna do this dot connection dot write B. So everything should again be just fine. So let's just check. Write reader and writer should be fine. I'm curious if we'll be able to have a broadcast method next, but for now let's just try. So what should happen now is we limit the number of connections, right? We limit the number of connections, so that's our thingy. That means go run example echo, it runs, and if we, well, we can go curl 80 the status. We can curl it, it's gonna be okay. Right now we don't take that into account, but we'll do. But if we do netcat 6969, we connect. Shit. I was expecting it to work, to be honest. So, oops. Let's add some logs. Slog.info created listener. Let's have something like address on. Man, I still haven't learned how to use the string interpolation, but it is what it is. Created listener on. With this max players. Max players. Oh, is it 0 max players? Oops. Server max players is equal to 2. Go run examples echo. Created. Bro, like this fucking sucks. I have to figure out how to use that shit, but okay, so we have one and netcat. Hi, we have the second one, and if we try again and say hi, it doesn't happen, it doesn't do anything. But now if we go back and say hi again, well, it's too small, to be honest. Okay, anyway, See, it works. If I say netcat and say hello, we should see it. If I create a new one and say hi, it shouldn't do anything. But if I close this one, oh, it actually just replied. Okay, so it went straight in. Yeah, I mean, I'd expect that, I think. Right, so it limits the number of connections. Bro, like, it's insane. Golang slug format. How the fuck do you use this shit? It's insane how bad, how bad, like, I cannot really think of how you use that. Oh, you really have to? That's insane. I mean, example use. Like, how the fuck do you use this shit? Oh my god. Structure loading. I guess it's like um making it prettier, but you kind of have to do it like this. Am I right? So you don't actually have format like I would expect in C. So delete everything else. Okay, probably right. Like created listener on. But why does it say bad key? Whatever, dude. I can't really care. Okay. Anyway, so that stuff works, right? But I want status to actually tell us the number of players. That means this thing needs access to our game server. So let's add it. Game server is gonna be a game server. Right, and let's have a function new handler. And this handler is gonna take in game server and it's gonna return handler v1. Okay, and return handler v1 game server. Okay, so let's say new handler, it needs that. So this thing also, well, I could I mean, it's just main. Yeah, I could send the server game server. Right, so we just need to put here server and call it like this. All right. So now if I go in here, we can say players is equal to this dot game server dot players. Wait, what? Yo, that's what I needed. And then let's imagine that we have another type. we can take it from lib, and we have this thingy, and we have the response. So it's gonna be status response, and it just needs JSON. So players int players, and here status response players something. So now we should see how many players we have, right? So if I run this thing and let's say we curl the status, it should be 0, but if we netcat into it, it should say 1 player. That's cool. Okay, can I add a broadcast now? That's the last thing that we kind of want. So I'd like to broadcast to everyone the message, right? But the writer doesn't really have a broadcast. Let's just say that. What do we know? We know, so I'm just thinking, in this function we know the game client, right? The current game client. The current game client has a pointer to the game server, and the game server knows all the other players. So that means that here when we do write, we could iterate all the other players, create writers on top of them, and just that. So that's gonna be interesting. I could just implement the write function on the game server. So if I implement write on game server, so game server, right, what I can do is for con, or for C, for client in range, these dot players, so we iterate all the players, boom, just like that. We can do something like c dot write b. Now the issue is, how do we handle the errors? How do we handle the errors? Because I cannot really return. Yeah, I cannot really return. I don't want. Yeah, it's weird because I don't want to skip a player if it fails, but I mean, could be like an it is what it is moment, and have something like this. And if error is not nil, then we just return. What the fuck? And otherwise we return it like this. Right, so here we can say that server, and we create a writer on the server. So Now when we write the bytes, let's do a server max players. Oh, I don't have next develop. Server max players netcat. We say hello. We should see a hello. And now if we netcat and say hi, we should see hi everywhere. That's nice. If we say hello, we see hello everywhere. If I say hi here, we see hi everywhere, right? Hello again. If I create a new netcat and say hi, again it shows it everywhere. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like really small change. Just put dot server here, and it actually just changed the entire logic. That's pretty. That's like the cool feature about interfaces, or in Rust they are called traits, but I think I prefer the traits instead of the interfaces, only because it's more explicit, right? Like here we did right, but we didn't say that game server now implements writer or something. I mean, thinking about it, it makes sense both ways, because now yeah, but still prefer the Rust way of explicitly stating that this implements writer. It's more easy to understand. So Docker build, let's build a Docker image. Right, build a Docker image. Perfect. Let's compose down volumes, so we delete everything from the database. Let's spin this up. We only have our Postgres. Let's run air, so it runs our matchmaker. And now if we expose, let's create a room, like name. Fuck, it failed. Yeah, actually we have to, I forgot. Go run. We need to initialize and migrate. Okay, and now we can run air. And if we send this request, it creates a room. Perfect. It also, oh, we created another one. Let's kill that. So that runs on the query port 38725. Let's kill this one. No, the other one. Yeah, just so we don't have like this is the one that we just spun up, right? So if we, oh shit, I forgot the code. The code is this. If we get rooms, we don't see any room, but if we use our code, we find this room was created, right? It has 0 players, maximum number of players is 2. Yeah, this thing won't change though, but we'll see. So query port, we can check the status of this room directly, and this should be used by the matchmaker to check how many players and stuff like that we have. Then if we netcat into the game port, we can send messages like hello. That's weird. I think I forgot to set the number of players, right? So if we go into main in matchmaker, we don't set the number of players here. So we should add -e for environment variables, and we should probably do something like format printf server max players %d equals and max players. Right. So that's what we need to add. Okay. So yeah, now let's start over. So let's kill this one. So now if we try to create a new room, we are running our database, right? So we can add new rooms. We run our matchmaker, and if we do a post and try to create a private room with 2 players, we get a code, right? So we can send this one to our friends, because if we do a curl get to 8080, we don't have any public rooms right now. We can create some, obviously, but we don't have any. But you can actually use the code to access this private room, right? You give your friend this code, he's able to access the room. Then you can use the query port to find out how many players does the game have. Obviously you'll see that here, but right now we don't sync the number of players from the database with the number of players from the game. We have to do that. It's probably gonna be a new, like in a separate part, because it's gonna be quite interesting to see from the beginning. So if we do status, we'll see the status of that room, 0 players, obviously. So let's netcat into it. Netcat is our current client. We don't have a game client, so yeah. We netcat into it, and it's like an echo server. You send a message, you get a message back. Right, and now if we check the status, we can see that we have 2 players. And if we netcat again, right, we get the message, our friend gets the message, and if we check the status, we have 2 players. And now if you are really cool and have more than 1 friend, you can actually have them connect as well. But let's say you send again a hello, only these 2 guys get the message, he's not getting it. And if you try to send a message, you don't get it. You need to wait to, stop the connection from someone else, right? And if we try to check the status, we still see only 2 players. So the maximum number of players is reached, right? That's the, yeah, I'd say it's pretty cool. And now the status is 0 players. So now that we have 0 players, matchmaker should say, oh, this room is empty, we can kill it. But that doesn't happen yet, so we have to kill the room manually. Right, and now if we try to netcat, there's no room, and status won't work because there is no room, but the database entry is still there. So we also need to delete this. But since we killed manually, we cannot delete that. But when the matchmaker is gonna have that check to /status, right? When it sees that there are 0 players, it deletes the entry from the database, and it also runs the docker kill command. Okay, so docker kill, right? It needs some kind of ID, and I was thinking, okay, we can use the code. for that ID. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. You can see that we have the name of the Docker image, so we can use this as the name. It's gonna be much easier to see. So how do you do that? Docker name? Yeah. Let's add that. Wow. I'd like to split this a little bit because it's too much. And it's annoying. Right, I guess this makes sense. But I'm gonna do probably like name, and we have the code, so code. Right. So now if we try to create a new room, we'll have the code, so we can say docker kill and code. Right. Now hopefully, I mean, it's gonna be impossible to have the code match the ID, but yeah. So that's gonna be the way we kill the rooms once they are empty. But yeah, so the plan for next time is gonna be adding a new thread in our main function that is gonna check the slash status for each room once every few minutes. It's gonna update the database entry for the room, like the number of players, potentially, I guess. Makes sense. And yeah, if the number of players is 0, then it's gonna kill that room. Right, and then we'll try to implement a game client instead of netcat that has maybe two subcommands, join and create. So create is gonna make the curl request and then immediately run netcat, right? And so that's create slash create, or I guess the no, it's gonna be client create, and the join is just gonna run netcat. So yeah, I mean, that can just be a bash script, but yeah, sounds, I mean, sounds pretty cool to me, to be honest. So I guess we'll see how that goes next time.